My presentation is on Dr. Jack Kavorkian and assisted suicide. My first slide shows my whether you agree or disagree. It says assisted suicide, wrong or right, crime or no crime, murder or medical assistance. This was a great debate for the decade of the 90s and into the early 2000s. Personal opinion was he was playing God. The next slide tells us who Dr. Jack Kavorkian was. It says he was an advocate as well as a practitioner, physician-assisted suicide. Kavorkian seemed to disagree with the justice system by perpetually assisting, some as early as hours after being released on bond for a prior assist, which means he would go to jail, literally get out, and then go help another person. Kavorkian was a medical pathologist who is known for helping people with terminally ill diseases such as, I think his first patient had Alzheimer's, one had Lou Gehrig's disease. When we say terminally ill, I tend to think about cancer. Kavorkian quickly became a spokesperson and advocate for assisted suicide, where he gained the nickname Dr. Death. The next slide, it tells us about his two main goals. His first was the comfort to all patients, and the second was his own protection from criminal charges. He wanted to stay safe from criminal charges. All patients were interviewed stating that they wanted to die. They had to consult their family physician and a mental health physician, and they must be terminally ill. Not really sure how he kept them comfortable, because you'll find out in our next slide that his first patient was Janet Atkins. She was the first of approximately 130, according to his account. He assisted to end her life because she was affected by Alzheimer's disease. Inside of a 1968 rusty Volkswagen van parked in a local campground near Kavorkian's home, that's where Miss Atkins ended her life. See what I'm saying about the whole comfort thing in a van in a campground? Not very private or, humane. The next slide is avoiding the law. Kavorkian, he called police minutes after she took her last breath. How he avoided conviction for this was her family held a press conference the next day, and they read the letter that she wished to die, like her suicide note that she had made prior. He also had a young high-priced lawyer that was able to avoid convictions in 4 cases from 1994 to 97. One of those ended in a mistrial while the others ended in acquittals. They focused on compassion of the jury to help in those. The next slide is that he would not stop. Prosecutors, jurors, state legislator, and the Michigan health authorities and Governor John Engler seemed helpless in stopping Kavorkian's assisting suicide. A state judge, Alice Gilbert, issued a permanent injunction barring Dr. Kavorkian from using his suicide machine. Michigan suspended his license in 1991 to practice medicine. In 1993, Michigan outlawed assisted suicide, but in 1994 they declared that was unlawful, but ruled assisting suicide was a common law felony. Under the state constitution, there are no protected rights for assisting suicide, so he could have gotten in trouble. He had no concern for the law. Kavorkian assisted many times against the better judgment of the law in the mere hours after being released. In 1993, the doctor considered the justice system to be a joke. He refused to post bond and decided to go on a hunger strike. In other arrests, he decided that he was going to fight officers just to be placed back into jail. In 1996, where he had to go to court, he made another scene by wearing a colonial era outfit just to show that he thought the charges against him were just one big joke. So he didn't take the law serious at all. He went too far. The next slide tells us that in 1998, the death of Thomas York, who was suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease, was the turning point. He got very arrogant. Dr. Kavorkian interviewed, in the interview that he did with all of his patients, he actually went beyond the means of assisting and pushed the button himself to inject the lethal medicine into the man. He mailed this video to 60 Minutes, And that was the turning point. That's what got him convicted of second-degree murder on March 26, 1999. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison. But after serving 8 years, on June 1st, 2007, Kavorkian was released from prison on a promise to never conduct another assisted suicide. The last slide tells us a little bit about the suicide laws. The laws of assisted suicide are not well supported. And I give you a website of euthanasiaprocon.org that tells you there are only 4 states with supported legalized assisted suicide. Those states are Montana, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. And it gives you the dates of when they all, took on the role to legalize it. The other 46 states, there is just no criminal statute for it. They don't recognize it. It's not legal. But the statutes in the other states range anywhere from a Class A felony to no specific statute. And our very last slide, which was one that was not really required, it basically gives you my personal opinion, which is, I feel as if Dr. Kavorkian was trying to play God. I understand that these patients were terminally ill, but miracles happen every day, and only one man is calling the shots, and it gives you the sources. Thank you.